Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the BUSR YouTube channel. Joining me tonight, very good friend of mine, Adam Bent. He's actually worked on a race car with me, so we know each other very well. How you doing, Adam?
I'm not too bad. Your brakes haven't broken yet, no?
No, not quite. They're still holding together just about. But welcome back to week 4 of the BUSR Winter Championship. Monday night, of course, means it's back to GT3 action on the Seca course Competizione. Tonight, coming to you from quite a dark Laguna Seca, one of the most challenging tracks in this game. I'm sure everyone will agree, with lots of sand and gravel to catch you out. As we see, it is pitch black, as this is practice just ending. So it looked like James White came out on top of the end of that. So sign of things to come. But yeah, I can't imagine you've driven much of Laguna Seca. Adam, what are your thoughts on it?
Not in this game, no. I've driven a lot of Laguna Seca in other games. It's narrow, very narrow. In some places, it looks like you might be able to overtake. It looks like you might have room for 2 cars, but very quickly you find out that the room runs out. And yeah, you've got to really make opportunistic moves, and every move is obviously going to count because it's going to be very hard to get back past another car.
Yeah, right, you are. Just as qualifying does get underway, James White on your screen at the moment was the GT3 Student Championship leader entering last week at Zolder, but an incident with Ed Haskell, I believe, took him out of that race and demoted him down to 3rd in Student Championships and relinquished that lead to Ben Gilroy. Let's go for a little lap around the Laguna Seca circuit then, whilst we have the time. So up to the start-finish straight now, crossing the start-finish line now as the track swings to the left over a hilltop and back down the other side, down towards the Andretti hairpin. Braking just before the 300-yard mark and getting the car slowed down very nicely, using the first gear on that Ferrari 296 GT3 to punch out the other side. Next we have turn 3, tightening 90-degree right-hander with where the gravel is, just waiting to catch you out on exit. And then a short shoot up to the fast and floaty turn 4 with these menacing sausage curbs ready to catch you out at any moment. But James White negotiates it very well indeed. Now down to turn 5, under the bridge, and embrace the camber of this corner. Really lean the car in. James White a little bit deep this time by, but shouldn't have lost too much time there, especially for a banker lap. Now up to the dangerous turn 6. Flick the car in, avoid the sausage curb, and run it right out to the gravel. I think James White just about clipped the gravel there, in fact, and had a moment because of it. And now it is the infamous corkscrew through 7, 8, and 9. Slow it down for the left, chuck it down the hill through the right, and back on power as soon as you feel confident enough. Now for rainy curve, roll in tons of speed here. The track really does tighten up on exit though, so be careful for that gravel trap. 2 corners to go. Turn 10 dealt very nicely again by James White, and the final corner, the second slowest corner on this track. First gear again, really utilizing all of the brakes possible, and out the other side up to the line. That is a lap of the circuit all the drivers will have to be negotiating tonight.
And that looks like Sam Knight currently spun at corkscrew, so he's obviously come down there and had a bit of a moment, and so has Ruben Curtis, who stopped on the outside of the corkscrew. That's quite a dangerous place to be stopping your car, especially as there's a blind apex. So if you throw the car in there and the car there, I'm sure, as you've probably found out once or twice in league racing, Angus, you don't see them until, well, you're already inside them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. No innuendo intended.
Well,
but yeah, it looked like that. Oh, well, I sure as hell hope not. But it looked as though maybe a little bit of contact between Ruben Curtis and Sam Knight, because it looked to me like Ruben Curtis was actually waiting for the 211 Lamborghini to rejoin. As we see our student championship leader going around the final corner to set his first time of the session, currently leading the overall standings as well. The BUSR Cup is Ben Gilroy. Up to the line he comes, and it was an invalid lap that time around, but a 123.1 would have put him right in the mix amongst James White and Anna Foster at the front of the field. As we see one of the new cars for this round, it's Cav Budd, who commentated some of the earlier rounds before he gave that opportunity to me in order to do some driving himself, and he's picked a very unfamiliar car to those of you who spent much time on the most recent game version. It is the Lexus, one of the most awesome sounding cars you could ever wish to drive.
It absolutely is. It's an incredible car to drive. I mean, I believe that was the first car I drove in the BUSR. Drove me to a few decent top 10 finishes, and also a handful of good moments, and maybe some bad ones, including a Zolder race that I want to forget. But yeah, it's a lovely car, and it's great to see Cav back out on circuit, obviously supporting the Movember charity cause across November. Really good to see and obviously we hope he can put the car quite high up.
We certainly do hope so. So a big good luck to Cavbird on behalf of both of us here. We see Kieran Nellam setting his first time, puts in P9. Seems fitting for someone who is currently having a pretty strong season in the Student Cup. Actually sits 7th in the standings there for his first BUSR season, and immediately returns to garage, whacks on a new set of tyres, puts a little bit more fuel in to go out and try again. But it's James White setting the marker out front at the moment, in front of 2 alumni drivers in Anna Foster and Josh Lodge, and a big surprise to see Jay Kirkham in P4. He's clearly been doing his practice and gels well with this circuit in the 151 McLaren. He's having a fantastic showing.
He really is. It's good to see again a decent number of manufacturers here today. I believe this is the first time we've seen a second BMW out on the circuit as well. It's been Owen Goldsmith, I think, for the entire season, with being the sole BMW. So it's nice to see a second BMW out there. But not unsurprising is the Ferrari and the McLaren's currently sitting all the way down to 5th. I'm sure as time goes on, we'll see Marley, Nellams and Pran probably work their way up as well, with obviously Gilroy at his lap time, but I'm sure he'll jump up as well.
Yeah, can't forget Ben Gilroy has taken pole at 2 of the 3 races so far this season. Took pole in Valencia, of course, and at Zolder last time out. Only person to beat him in qualifying was the man who currently sits top of the table, James White, looking to bounce back from a shaky week last time out, as Aidan Chatburn puts in a great time to go to P3 and dislodge Josh Lodge. I promise you that wasn't intentional, but I'm proud of it and I'm going to go with it. But just looking at some of the cars down the order, Pranav Kalevala currently doing a very solid job in 11th for someone who didn't really gel particularly well with the Valencia circuit. And there goes Ben Gilroy. Would you look at that time? Identical to James White.
Well, if there's ever a moment to screenshot a race in the BUSR, I think that's the moment as the support spun up ahead. Not sure which one it was, but I'm hoping that it doesn't affect Ben Gilroy's lap. But incredible scenes there to see the 2 top drivers in the Student Championship at this current moment. Well, not even a paper between them. You can't even fit a paper in within 0 seconds.
Yeah, right, you are. And actually, as it turns out, James White is actually 3rd in the Student Championships after DNFing at Zolder. It's Owen Goldsmith. Great to see him up at the front in the BUSR GT3 League as a bit of an F1 championship contender in the past. But there you go, statement of intent from James White. Just moves that marker post a little bit further away from Gilroy, as Anna Foster has also managed to improve on her time. Ed Haskell currently sitting in 7th place, and better showing from him this time out as well. Seems like it's mixed up the field a little bit, as we have Marley Watts, who is one of the best cars out at Zolder last weekend. I believe he qualified 5th for that race, currently down in 10th. And Florin Mazalou as well, having another very good showing in one of the 2 Porsches.
Absolutely. Well, night racing does add another element to the race. All of a sudden, you go from having daylight and knowing where your markers are to nighttime, where your markers are only occasionally lit up by the beam of your headlights. You've really got to make special markers closer to the circuit than maybe you would normally. I'm sure that a few of these drivers use external things such as barriers and things that you may not be able to see in first-person cam in the nighttime with the headlights, as opposed to daytime with just with the ability of natural light showing you where everything is outside the car. You've really got to be much more aware when racing at night.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, really. It does. You really have to focus in when the sun is down and the moon is up, because you have so much less to see, like you said. And whilst we were talking about that, Ben Gilroy has put in another fantastic time of 22.4, puts him straight to the top of the standings on what is still a fast track. So there's still more time in this racing surface. If enough cars keep going around, these times will keep on improving.
Yeah, it's really important to get that track evolution in time for the race. Obviously, whatever, I believe it's under the impression of whatever they finish this qualifying session on in terms of track conditions will also be the same conditions for the race. So you really want to rubber in that circuit as much as possible in order to get that optimal racing surface for the, I believe, 2 sprint rounds today.
No, it's an endurance round. This time out, 75 minutes will be the race time with a mandatory stop for tyres, and I'm assuming fuel as well, because why wouldn't you? I doubt any car in this grid can make it 75 minutes on tank fuel. Maybe the Ferraris if you felt like it, but when there's a minimum pit timer, of course, of 25 seconds stationary, you may as well use the chance to whack some fuel in. Currently looking at 2 cars who haven't set a time, being the Cubby G Racing Lamborghini of Cam Gold and Jonan Turner, who joined after qualifying at Zolder and made great progress in the early stages, has to be said, before having an incident a little bit later on and unfortunately retiring from that race. I've just seen something incredible. Look at Ed Haskell.
Go on,
He's
Ed.
up in 4th place. He's ahead of Josh Lodge, Owen Goldsmith, Marley Watts.
And dislodging further, he does improve again as well, so he's actually improving each lap. So there could be an outside chance for him to take another position, maybe even P3.
Really, really could. As our producer says, it is Ed time. It is time for the shed. Get your sheds ready.
He does have a hammer after we told him where to go buy one, so maybe it is hammer time.
Oh no, that's dangerous. One driver who'll be looking keen to improve, Marley Watts, and as it stands, actually, it's 0.8 of a second cover P5 through to P12. So these fine margins can really make a difference around a track that is notoriously difficult to overtake on. Just think back to the American Le Mans series in 2010 if you need to know what I'm on about. That fantastic battle I'm sure we've all seen between the Corvette C6 and the 997 generation Porsche in one of the later years in GT2. That was a brilliant scrap, it has to be said, in what is one of my favourite categories of motorsport. But it really does show the characteristics of this track. You have to set everything up. It's not one where opportunities are going to present themselves. Sometimes you have to make them work for you.
Absolutely. Again, it's all about momentum as well. The FC, everybody here that's run a round prior to this will have oncoming momentum, especially if you finished high, like people like Ben Gilroy, Anna Foster, Ed Haskell, obviously Owen Goldsmith taking that high of being obviously promoted into P2 into the Student Championship for this round. He'll be taking that as a positive. He'll be learning from that. He'll be trying to improve. Again, obviously this is only, I think, his 2nd season in ACC in a GT car. He's notoriously good at F1 games, and he's now starting to show he's quite good, maybe even notoriously good at these kind of games as well, where maybe downforce isn't as dependent and you've just really got to be in tune with the car when you drive.
Yeah, it really is that case, isn't it? And he's one of the very few drivers who has been running double duty with the F1 and ACC leagues here. Owen, a notorious F1, should I say, front runner, but like you say, new to the ACC leagues, and is improving all the time. At the moment, as it looks like half a second will find him well over 5 places, and Aidan Chatburn finds a similar amount of time actually to go P4. But at the moment, it's looking all Ben Gilroy's way with 2 minutes left on the clock. James White's going to have to find something, but everyone apart from Florin Mazzalou and Cam Gold are out on track trying to find that time. They know that this could be a session that comes down right to the very end.
Well, rather interestingly, it would be interesting to see as to whether Cam Gold is allowed to race on the basis that he would need to still set a 107% time.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously the stewards today are Alexa and I don't know who the other gentleman is, but Remco, there we go. Remco.
Yeah, Remco Ottens is one of Pranav Kalevar's drivers, I do believe, or at least works alongside. So, okay, he is and SimGrid steward, so he knows what he's doing. I think it's safe to say. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, so we've got 2 very, very well versed stewards, and I'm sure they'll make a appropriate decision as to whether Cam races or not. But if he doesn't, as he's not left the pit lane now, at the very least he will not be setting a qualifying time, which makes me think that he does not meet the criteria.
Yeah, right, you are. We'll have to see what the stewards say about that one. This is, of course, also dependent on the times that drivers have set in practice. So currently everyone comfortably within 107%, apart from Cam Gold, who has not set a time. But if he has set a time in practice that could compare and prove he's capable of getting around this track within that margin, then he is, of course, permitted to race. Jonan Turner, one of the late sign-ups for this event, showed up very late in practice, and I'm assuming has done quite few laps because of it. But does find time finds over a second, in fact, but it's only enough to put him up 1 position. But 4 more tenths can find him another 2. So with going on to his final lap now, he has absolutely everything to play for. And just looking at the timing screen, Anna Foster's actually managed to split the 2 leading student cars of Gilroy and White.
Absolutely. Anna's been on an absolute qualifying spree recently. I believe she's been on P2 almost every race, if I'm not mistaken. I'd need to go back and have a double check, but I believe she's qualified at least front row or second row every time, which is an incredible achievement when you think about it, especially considering you've got a very stacked grid at the front there. You can see all within a second of each other, up to the top 6 really. We'll count Josh, he's very close, so we'll count that. But even then, as that was an improvement from Gilroy.
It was indeed an improvement from Gilroy. Found a 10th in his lap and has very much cemented his place at the top of the screen as James White, still out on track, still on a flying lap. Looked like he was the last car to get in that extra time as he goes up to turn 6 now. But a 22.3 is an incredibly competent time from a driver who is on an absolute fantastic form at the moment. But as you say, Anna Foss has been always one to enjoy a good lunge and is very good in racecraft. As Jonathan Turner finds a spot and demotes Cav Bud. This is the man we need to watch, though. Josh Lodge and James White are the 2 final cars looking to set a time. Both of them on valid flying laps. And I say that, I cursed it. Josh Lodge invalidates and dives into the pit lane. So all eyes on our P3 man. The driver who won at Silverstone first time out. It's up to the line. Will he be able to gain a place? And he goes pole by 3 hundredths.
Wow.
Right, death of a session, finds 4.5 tenths. That was a lap he will want to remember. That was simply fantastic right at the end.
Absolutely incredible. That's exactly what we want to see from this kind of championship. The students absolutely going hell for leather and hoping, you know, even like we've seen here, even a thousandth, even the hundredths of the second count. And all of a sudden we've gone from James White being P3 to P1, and obviously a front row of 2 students, which is really good to see. Again, challenging the alumni.
It really is, yeah. Of course, the alumni still able to compete through NSC. So thank you to NSC for allowing alumni to compete in this, because it gives us an extra little dynamic having subclasses and drivers we've known for a very long time, looking at Cav and Anna especially, still able to compete amongst the students. But like you say, statement of intent from James White, bad showing last time out. He's looking to bounce back in a big way. And after taking what I'm assuming will be his drop round out in Zolder, he's put himself in the perfect place to start this time.
Absolutely, he has. And obviously, we'll see how he defends, I think, more than anything, from Ben Gilroy into turn 1, especially being such a tight circuit. You've really got to throw everything on the line sometimes to defend. But again, 75 minutes is a very long time to race, especially if you pick up some damage on that first corner.
And let's not forget, this is Laguna Seca. This is one of the most difficult tracks you could hope to go to, especially in the lacking light of darkness. That is scientifically accurate, I can confirm. But it really is the way you would have wanted to start. But this track is so punishing. We've seen that Ben Gilroy has had such good race pace as well at Zolder, nearly lapping the entire field at certain points before taking his pit stop. So we'll have to see how that plays out. However, in the meantime, we are thrilled as always to be supporting Special Effect, the gamers charity, in this season. We've been supporting them for a number of series. They've sent us a little video to show everyone watching at home. So we're about to play that now whilst we take a little drink of water, I suspect.
Absolutely.
Nobody likes being left out. That's why Special Effect are helping people with physical disabilities to play video games. But this isn't just about having fun. The gaming setups we create are personalised, so people can play to the very best of their abilities. And that opens the door to inclusion and independence, confidence and creativity. Help us level the playing field and create more magical gaming moments. Because it's everyone's turn to play.
Okay, and so with 5 seconds left to go, before the drivers pull away from the grid. We can see them all stacked up there, headlights and engines ready and raring to go. Angus should be back momentarily, so I'm going to be leading away. It is James White on pole with Ben Gilroy in second, Anna Foster third with Aidan Chatburn in P4. That's a McLaren 2, 3 and 4. Ed Haskell splits the Ferrari McLaren repetition with his lovely Mercedes there, the Rev Sport Mercedes in P5, really with Josh Lodge, Marley Watts 6th, 7th and Jay Kirkham 8th. Then we go to another German car, BMW and Owen Goldsmith in P9 with Kieran Nellams in the McLaren in P10. Florian Mazalou is our 11th driver next to Sam Knight on the 6th row with Pranav Kalevala, Jonan Turner, Cav Budd, Curtis, Mike Maitland and Cam Gold rounding out our 18 starters for this 75-minute endurance race.
Yeah, very well done indeed. Looks like Cam Gold was allowed to start after all, so clearly the stewards choosing to give him the benefit of the doubt given his BUSR experience in the past. So Cam Gold going off the back of the grid alongside a series debutant Mike Maitland. Cam Gold thinks the race has started already, as it seems, as he's blasting through the field and ghosting through every single car in sight. But this is where we're going to want to be watching. It's White and Gilroy. We feel like we're talking about these guys all the time. A clash of wheels at Turn 1 last time out in Zolder. Are we going to have a similar fate tonight? It was White that came off worse then, whilst Gilroy went on to effectively dominate the race in actuality with a huge gap back to Anna Foster. We haven't seen a winning gap that big in a very long time, talking back to Joe Scher, maybe Harry Spears and Jordan Grant Smith in the ACC scene for those who have been around for a while.
Getting John Riley?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because when John Riley was in BUSR, he had Joe Scher, and
I believe
the finishes
still had some
although sometimes were close. John Riley, of course, Ferrari factory esports driver now. It's fantastic to see what he's gone on to do, and will always have our support from BUSR, where
Absolutely.
he comfortably won a season the last academic year. But for now, we're about to see who is going to fight and continue to try and take that crown this time around, with White and Gilroy on the front row, and then Foster, the leading alumni driver. Great to see Aidan Chatburn up in fourth as well, can be said for Ed Haskell, by far his best showing of the season. It is the track with so much legacy. It is Laguna Seca for round 4 of the BUSR Winter Championship on ACC. We will watch those lights with the Ferrari and the McLaren on the front row, and we go green. That is a good launch from White. Gilroy not quite getting the launch he would have hoped for, and that lets Anna Foster have a look at the inside, and down to turn 2 we go, in fact, because turn 1 is the kink. Gilroy's trying to send it in high, wide and handsome, and there's contact with Foster, and Foster's over the gravel, and that lets Chatburn and Haskell through. See a leading alumni driver in the championship as well, and that's more contact with Lodge and Haskell.
It was a lot of contact. That's a huge car park going on there.
Yeah, that looked
huge car park.
Yeah, that looks fairly inevitable, I'm afraid. Marley Watts caught up in that as well. I see that also Florian Mazalou as well, another casualty of that. Pranav Kalevala, Ruben Curtis, Kieran Nellams all caught up in that, I am afraid. But drama in the early stages, but it's James White with the lightning start out in front, has 8.5 tenths clear already. We were talking about statements of intent, and not many come any more powerful than that first lap.
Absolutely. Well, he's done exactly what he needed to do. Stay out of trouble, get ahead at turn 1, turn 2, and pull away as everything else unfolds around and behind him. He's done exactly what he needs to do there. Anna Foster, really unfortunate there to be tagged by Gilroy. I'm sure the stewards will probably have a look at that, and we'll see what comes from that. And it's, again, equally disappointing for Ed Haskell, who started so well, to be tagged and obviously lose all those positions.
Yeah, it really was. Just a little bit of contact between Lodge and Haskell on the run down to turn 3 can do so much damage when you're at the front of that field. Didn't look anything of malicious intent from Josh Lodge, but like you say, with the Gilroy and Foster incident, the stewards will definitely be having a look at that as well, because there were just so many cars involved. As we see the recovering Josh Lodge after getting caught up in that crash. A drive with a lot of speed and a lot of BUSR experience, in fact, trying to chase down Pranav Kalevala. These are the 2 Lamborghinis that were, firstly, the only 2 Lamborghinis in the field, for obvious reasons. Look at the timing tower. But also last week out at Zolder, these two were inseparable in the early stages, and I spoke about discretion being the better part of valor. As Sam Knight then was sending a dive on the inside of Cam Gold. Actually, it's now Jonan Turner sneaking through on Sam Knight.
Let me if he can make it through. I think he's going to have that acceleration just ahead of that Lambo. And he should have the inside line if he keeps it. There you go. He should get the inside line here. He pushes both of them wide. Oh, he's going to spin. Oh, no. Oh, wow. Oh,
and that was some superb. Kalevala.
That was some superb avoidance. Almost perhaps the save of the season there.
Yeah, it would have been unbelievable if it had been able to get away with that. Jonah Turner clipping the curb on the inside of 6 sent him up into Sam Knight going up the beginning of the Rahal Straight, and the spinning Turner out of control just caught completely unaware Pranav Kalevala, who in his attempts to dive out the way unfortunately was dipped 2 wheels on the gravel, and that's all she wrote about trail like this. Here's a good battle between Ruben Curtis and Marley Watts. Ruben, a driver who's been pretty strong. He's completed every race he started for a start, and that puts him in pretty good stead in the Student Championship, currently sitting in P9, not shying away at all from a fight with Marley Watts, our second placed alumni driver, as we go down to turn 2. Ruben Curtis doesn't really have any regard for reputation. Marley's a very, very experienced driver here with BUSR. Ruben Curtis doesn't really care, and it's going to drive him really, really hard, but it's not quite enough, and Marley Watts will sneak on by.
It's been really good racing so far, shame about a couple incidents, but some really optimistic. That's oh no. As soon as I say that, we go back to Mike Maitland, who has been, well, door shunted by Ed Haskell. So we'll see what, maybe we'll get a replay on that, see what happened there. But we have got our first pit, either stoppers or retirees, I'm not sure. And we'll come back to that in a moment, but we just see here now, I think Mike just drops it on his own. Nope. Gets close, and
into turn 4 we go.
Into turn 4, and yeah, I think he just drops over the curb. There we go, and Ed just has nowhere to go. Yeah, really big shame. It just keeps the day just keeps getting worse for our Edge Hill student.
Yeah, the only Edge Hill student in the field, in fact, and the frustration I can imagine must be immense.
Oh, as Mike's gone up again, so I think he's got damage that is maybe worth repairing as yet.
Ooh. Yeah, he's dropped it all on his own, looks like, through the corkscrew. Ed Haskell.
He's George Russelled himself into a wall.
Oh, dearie me. Charlotte Perkins is screaming at you right now. But yeah, Maitland backwards and in the gravel, unfortunately. Very unprepared for this race. Bless him. As, oh, that's an interesting call.
White's come in
James
really
White,
early.
The driver of the fastest lap, has decided to take on fuel and tyres incredibly early. He's going to have to go to the end from here, isn't he? Well, he's going to have to go to the end.
Surely
he
the tyres and fuel, you wouldn't do that. Surely not. As Jonah, I think, has retired. I think Jonah has retired from the race.
Yeah, well, either that or very significant suspension and bodywork damage will leave him in the pits for a little while. Out of the pits comes James White. Look at all the space around him.
I think there's got to be a reason behind it. He's giving Gilroy this opportunity now to build a gap. We'll see how Gilroy does, but White has now got a hope for the next. Who was that?
That was that was Kieran Nellums off the road. Just dropped it on his own. I think caught the curb a little bit wrong.
Touched the curb on the corkscrew and
into.
No, he doesn't even really touch the curb. And compression. Under compression, it just goes round.
Yeah.
Obviously, the setup not really designed for lift-off oversteer, evidently.
Yeah, so it seems. Kieran Nellums actually messaging me last night on Discord saying, hey, can you big me up in the BUSR race tomorrow? Because I want to use it for my little highlights reel. And Kieran, you are really, really nice. He offered to do a bunch of work for me, which is very, very kind of him.
I mean, 10 out of 10 on the pirouette. There we go.
Yeah. Kieran Nellums showing some serious car control to do such a neat pirouette as Pranav Kalevala sails past turn 1.
Just trying to avoid an incident.
But Kieran Nellums, you're gonna have to make some good overtakes now if you want shouting praise from me and Wadham here in the commentary box, because after a loop like that, it's kind of hard to make that look impressive, you know.
It really is. But to be fair to him, really lovely guy. Really managed to fit himself into the community, and I think a lot of people struggle to fit themselves into the into communities. We're a very open community. We always obviously want more and more people to get involved we do a lot more extra activities, as Ed Haskell has found one of those extra activities in the form of rallycross. As obviously he lets Nelms by, and it also looked like that was the Ferrari of...
It was Pranav Kalvala. It was going by as well.
It's interesting to see why, and if we do have a chance to chat with James, I'd love to understand his strategy here. If this is his strategy, he's played a blinder. Maybe
if it works, it's a blinder. It's definitely a very unusual strategy choice to make, especially so early in the race. Pitting, you're talking 5 minutes into a 75-minute race. You're banking so much on things going your way for the remaining hour and 10. It's a huge gamble, if I'm honest with you.
Maybe he was just bored and he wanted to race some people. To be fair, I wouldn't put it past James. He has got amazing racecraft. He's a very quick driver, and
really
we'll find out maybe within the next 2 or 3 laps. He'll be coming up to Mike, who is our first non-stopper, and he will very quickly have to try and see what he can do to work his way around him. And just to confirm, it is indeed a retirement from Jonan Turner. He has left the server.
Yeah, unfortunate to see after a retirement as old the last time out as well. But James White has a 12-second gap to close in on Mike Maitland, who I'm assuming won't put up too much of a fight. I was talking about how, unfortunately, unprepared Mike Maitland was coming into this round as Sam Knight does a little bit more rallycross. I was expecting some of this, I'll be honest with you, going into tonight. It is such a punishing track, and the sand or gravel here acts like old iRacing grass. It's just touch and wee spin. But Mike Maitland is someone who's definitely been caught out by lack of preparation. He only found out I convinced him to race, actually, so sorry, Mike. I convinced him to race earlier on today, and he only signed up for the championship around 2.5 hours ago. So he hasn't exactly had the most track time around a track like this, and I don't even think he had the track medals at Laguna Seca. So he's definitely up against it, but good to see him sticking around, and I'm sure he will continue to improve with every passing lap that goes.
Absolutely. Again, we've got to remember that some of these drivers here don't have enough time to prepare. I mean, for example, if I was racing tonight, I would probably I've maybe had 20, 30 minutes across 3 days on my computer in the past 3 days. Some of us, obviously, especially alumni, we now have full-time jobs, which means that it's a little bit harder for us to prepare and also manage our time, as well as Marley Watts has decided he's also going to go rally crossing.
We just set up a permanent camera in that corner, you reckon?
I think we just set a permanent camera. Yeah, just let everybody go wide. But the main thing is, even with, you can prepare as much as you want. It doesn't matter how much preparation you do. It matters how well you perform it in a race setting. You can be the fastest person in practice, but during qualifying and during the race, that counts for nothing if you can't actually link it together.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And on screen right now is one driver who's shown fantastic race pace in the past, Anna Foster, in the new, let's not forget, McLaren 720S Evo, replacing the outdated non-Evo car. Another driver who's also looking like he's got fantastic race pace, Ben Gilroy, selling fastest lap of the race last time by, and that is Jay Kirkham off on the exit of 2. Now let's see how this happens. Is this a gravelly moment or a curb moment?
It's a curb moment.
A curb and a gravel moment.
And gravel. Oh no!
Kind of unavoidable there, unfortunately, for the Lamborghini.
A little bit unavoidable, I think that Kirkham was trying to rejoin in a safe manner, obviously without losing too much time, and just happened to be a Lamborghini behind him. Really unfortunate for the Aberystwyth driver. There's very few Welsh drivers I see. Obviously, I was one for Wrexham, one for Aberystwyth. I don't think we've had many others.
Sure, there's been a couple of Cardiff and Swansea unis throughout BUSR's lifespan, but okay, yeah.
Wow, we're not going to go into that. We're not
Wales, are we?
Yeah, we're not going to go into politics of Wales right now. But yeah, obviously, Cardiff Met. You've got Cardiff Met, Swansea. All of the other universities. I guess they're Welsh enough. But yeah, we see a fair few drivers from, normally it's the Midlands near Motorsport Valley where we see most of the drivers, if I'm not mistaken.
No, you're absolutely right. It is definitely a hotspot for motorsport activity, and indeed esports motorsport activity as well, this being one of them, with the incredibly popular and successful GT World Challenge series funded esports series held on a set of course Competizione. back to the racing action. And one thing I am surprised about, actually, is 2 things I'm surprised about. 3 things make it. No, 4 things. Looking at that top 7 now, we have Gilroy out front. That's not a surprise. We want to see where he slots in when James White, when Gilroy does come into pit. And then we have Aidan Chatburn in second, who had a really good qualifying, but I did not expect him to be able to keep Anna Foster behind him as long as he has been able to. And then we have Owen Goldsmith, after a shaky qualifying, currently 4th, in front of Florin Mazzalou, Cam Gold from the back of the grid, and Cav Budd. I would never have seen that happening.
I mean, to be fair, we probably wouldn't have seen it happen if it weren't for what we usually expect to see, which is chaos. Night race at Laguna Seca. I mean, Laguna Seca in any way. You ask anybody about Laguna Seca, it is chaos. As Anna may be thinking about a move, I think she probably will bide her time a little bit more. She may as well wait till he stops, do a fast lap, and then overtake him through the stops.
Yeah, it really does. Looks like Chatburn's got everything covered at the moment. He's not really making any mistakes. He's keeping it nicely within the white lines, and is not really showing too many signs of feeling under pressure at the moment. So Chatburn currently, as it stands in the points tables, sits P6 in student after not completing in Zolder. But before that, a good run out of Valencia Chatburn had. But this is by far the best showing we've seen of him in probably his entire BUSR time.
Absolutely. Well, I think from this point on is where they're going to start be looking at drop scores. I think once you've got 4 rounds on the board, you can start sort of working out where the drop scores come into play. Obviously, we'll be halfway through the season, which means that all of a sudden you really need to start picking up points. Obviously, the first few rounds are where you just want to get to the end. You really want to focus on finishing and obviously completing as many laps, completing as much racing near these drivers, because when you come into the business end of the season, the rear end of the season, obviously round 6, 7 and 8, where every point could be the difference between you finishing in first and maybe down into 7th, as currently this table obviously is quite stacked. It's going to be massively important to know where you stack up with the drop scores.
It really is, and one of the things that James White has to think about as he makes this risky strategy call is he's already taken his drop score. He can't make another mistake again. He can't have another round as bad as Zolder. He is effectively one hand tied behind his back for the remaining 4 rounds after tonight. Yeah, that's the one. So 5 rounds including this race. But he can't put a foot wrong now for the rest of the season. Gilroy's had 3 strong rounds, scoring 33 points to Silverstone for a 2nd place, I believe it was. 41 points in the student class at Valencia for winning both races, and another 41 points at Zolder for winning with fastest lap. He's got the card stacked in his favour at the moment, as he has the option to take a drop round as and when he chooses to. So he hasn't got a huge amount of pressure. James White's having to deal with that pressure and still try and perform. But so far, his times have always been competitive, but he's going to have to find himself behind some traffic soon enough. Next up is Ed Haskell, and he's only a couple corners away, so only a few more laps of clean air for James White before he comes up upon a big group, in fact.
Absolutely. Well, the other thing we've got to remember is that technically it's not traffic. It is competitors.
Yeah, very true.
He is not lapping them. He is overtaking them, which means that they can defend and they can do, well, what they please. Pran Calvala, I believe, has had another incident down between turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, looks like a gravelly moment.
Does look like a gravelly moment, and that is our 2nd time, this time on the circuit, that Pran has unfortunately been lapped, which is a really big shame. He definitely has the pace there. It's just getting that consistency down, as we see Josh Lodge really fighting now against the Lexus of Cav Budd.
Yeah, Cav Budd's having a fantastic race. Only Lexus in the field, only Lexus for a couple of seasons, in fact, and he's giving it large against Josh Lodge, the driver who currently sits P3 in Alumni. But Cav Budd, unfortunately, in a much older car. You're talking at least 4 or 5 years, the age difference between those two. And without any custom BOP in the BUSR, Cav Budd, unfortunately, can't really make the use of that Lexus's great sound. But Josh Lodge is dispatched of one crucial position and now has a bunch of clear air to work to until he gets up to the back of Cam Gold from the back of the grid, let's not forget.
Absolutely does. That is Nellums, isn't it?
Nellums again.
Spin, and he doesn't collect the wall at least, which is very nice. and then he carries on his way. But gravelly moment definitely there for Nellums as we come through. Is he going to have another incident? No. We've got another yellow flag out circuit. Don't know who that was for.
And here we see
Anna Foster.
Well, Anna Foster's actually has made the move.
She's made the move
on Aiden Chatburn.
Does the move stick? This is the big question, I think, as we watch them. Chatburn's going to send... No, just a very clean move.
One, and she holds on to it, in fact.
There we go. Well done.
So Anna Foster finally is able to get past Chatburn, a leading alumni, a driver, not really under any in-class pressure from behind, but of course she's been on the podium in more races than not this season and has been having a really, really good show by Anna Foster's standards. I'm sure she'll be very happy with her form so far, and now finally can set her sights on Gilroy, who has just lapped Mike Maitland in the BMW.
Absolutely. Well, it is really good to see that obviously we keep getting more and more people turning up each week, as number 16 has spun.
It's Ruben Curtis.
That is Ruben Curtis, the Porsche. The rear engine cars definitely not having a great showing here at the moment. To be fair, I don't think many cars are having a great showing. Oh, that's a huge slap. That is a huge tank slap.
That is peak rear engine moment.
That is peak rear engine moment. That was almost as good as the stunts that I've been doing today. Anyway.
I'm fairly sure there was slightly less damage involved with those stunts, but that's all right. We can move on with that.
I refuse to comment. Anyway, as we see Josh Lodge trying to dislodge Florin Mazzalou from P6.
Yeah, Florin Mazzalou, not his finest season so far. We know that the 992 GT3R is a notoriously difficult car to drive. I've been spending quite a lot of time in it recently. You can either get it very right or very, very wrong, and it's not the choice pick in a set of course competency only right now. They both go deep into turn one, but Josh, having dispatched Cav Bud, like you say, he's got Florin Mazzalou in his sights, and actually, now I look at it, Cav Bud is slightly going with him towards Florin Mazzalou.
Oh no!
Cav Bud's going off the road, but catches
He's held it. He's held it.
Fantastic car control from a driver who loves his rallying. He had to use his rallying skills there in a car that was not really suited for the conditions he was on. But he keeps it in the straight and narrow just about. And speaking of straight and narrow, Florin Mazzalou, small mistake out of 5. And Josh Lodge gets another place into 6. And can now progress again up towards Cam Gold. He's on a real comeback charge, isn't he, Josh Lodge?
He really is. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he's going to drive that car to within an inch of its life to gain any position he can. It's really important here that you push as hard as you can to try and just make positions at this early stage of the race. Even one position ahead of a driver will make a big difference at the stop, because you want to stop in clean air, you want to come out in clean air, so you know exactly where you need to be and exactly the distance you need between cars, between the stops. I'm assuming we probably want about 50 seconds for a full stop service, I believe. Actually, no, I think it is a lap and a bit, isn't it, a full stop here?
It's just less than a lap, in fact, because James White was leading the race and now finds himself around 15 seconds in front of Ben Gilroy. 15 seconds is the gap between Ben Gilroy lapping James White, but of course White has stopped. And we've just heard in our ears that despite pitting for fresh tyres early on, James White losing time to Ben Gilroy. We can see in the timing tower that Gilroy has the fastest lap, but James White, with that heavy car, having stopped so early into the race, is left with a big challenge on his hand. If he's going to keep up, and Cav Bud around, and Marley just avoids the spinning Lexus. Cav Bud gets going again, only losing 1 spot. That was spectacular, wasn't it?
I mean, that was a very incredible spin. It was a very different spin as well. It gets a bit wide, gets over the curb, and the car goes round. A full 360. Pretty much a full 360 there.
Yeah, I'll give that one a really clean spin,
but wrong time to execute a spin, I think. So he's got a lot of work to do now after actually almost catching Florin.
Yeah, slight under rotation cost him a 10 on my scorecards. He had to do a little bit of steering to get the car straight again, but I'm going to give a huge amount of respect to Marley Watts for avoiding that. That was nearly a plane crash, but Marley, with the reaction times of a cat, it seems, able to dive his car onto the grass and keep it together. So very well done to him, and he's able to continue the charge that Cav Bud started in, chasing down Florin Mazzalou.
Absolutely. really well done, and obviously he can now focus on trying to catch up with Marley and Florin. Maybe a clean change of pants in the stop.
Yes, definitely. I think that'll be required for Cav Bud. It's his first ACC competitive race in a while in the Lexus, and it's a car he was looking forward to using a huge amount. He had a choice between the Lexus or the Bentley or the Honda, which are 3 cars that we haven't had used this season so far. Cav Bud choosing for the noisiest of them all in the Lexus, and is very proudly supporting Movember, hence the custom livery on that car. And well, still very much mid-table, despite being in by quite a long way the oldest car on the grid. As we currently see on screen, Ed Haskell chasing down Ruben Curtis for a position. Still yet to take his stop, despite the damage obtained in the early stages of the race. And Ruben Curtis, of course, another student driver, just like Ed. So this is a genuine battle for not only overall positions, but also class positions as well, as down through Rainy Curve they go. One more time. It's nearly 25 minutes gone on the clock. And it is still Ben Goyle leads the way. Ruben Curtis gets out wide, and that is all the opportunity Ed Haskell needs into the final corner. He will advance another place if he can keep Curtis behind. And at the final corner they come. They're still side by side up to the line. That 991 Porsche is showing great acceleration off the last turn. He's got the inside run through 1 and down towards 2, the Andretti hairpin, but does tuck in Ed Haskell too late, too strong on the brakes, and will claim that 12th spot. As we see, looks like that is Kieran Nellums, in fact, getting out of the way of James White. So that was a change of position, actually. But Nellums choosing not to put up any defense for his fellow student competitor, and good friend James White finds another position. And we have in fact heard that, unfortunately, Pranav Kalevala, after having a few moments throughout the race, has chosen to retire the car and maybe go and have some food or something. I wish I could have some food round about now.
I've had some food. It was very lovely.
I'm very jealous of you.
It's
a move.
Sad to see. As that's Marley down the inside, and very clean move. That's a very good.
That was fantastic.
Of Florin to leave the racing room, as Marley should return the favour here. As they're gonna. Oh no, he doesn't return the favour. He gets right into the rear quarter panel of the Porsche.
The peak block
Marley
from Masalu.
Marley giving him a bit of a flash there. Naughty from Marley there. He should have just left the room for the driver ahead. So far, no incident's been logged by race control. Now, I'm not sure whether that's because there's too many for them to log, or they're just waiting for the end of the race. But surprisingly, you'd think by now we'd have some of the outcomes from the first lap.
Well, I can answer that for you, in fact, Adam. So, lap 1, corner number 2, collision between cars 34 and 734 is a no further action. That was deemed a racing incident from race control. The contact between Josh Lodge and Ed Haskell, that is also no further action. And a 10-second time penalty to the retired Pranav Kalevala for causing a crash with a 37. That is that's Kieran Nellums. Sorry, my mistake. And maybe one of the reasons why Kieran's been having a slightly rougher time of things around this difficult circuit, as now fighting with a damaged car. He will have to continue onwards as we see this fantastic fight continuing on. Masalu covers the inside down towards 10. Marley looks all the way around the outside, runs onto the gravel. Is Masalu's best showing of the season by a mile so far, and he really wants to keep hold of this position and keep his fellow competitor behind. We know the speed that Marley Watts can have, and we can see the frustration of the flash of the lights from Marley Watts, but no can do.
No, exactly. At the moment, Florin is an iron wall, an immovable object for Marley, and he just really can't figure out a way past him at the moment. It's a really good showing from both these drivers, though. Obviously, a bit of contact early on in the battle, but ever since, they've been really clean with each other, really respectful. Florin really respectful to give Marley that racing room as and where he has to give that, and obliges, obviously, in those positions. Biggest issue now, though, for Marley is where does he get past, or does he just hold station and try an overcut strategy?
Yes, an interesting dilemma that Marley Watts has to face. As looking at the time tower, James White's got another place past Ruben Curtis, but that gap is still coming down between Gilroy and White. Of course, they're no longer fighting for positions, more a case of strategy dynamic now between the two. And strategy dynamic is something that's probably going to play a part in this battle here between Watts and Masalu, like you say, Adam. As I strongly believe Watts has the better pace, but that Porsche just pulls out the corners so well that Watts can't do much about it right now.
Yeah, he really is trying. There we go. So you say that, he goes down the inside. Florin seemed to just concede the position there, whether he just didn't want to have this fight or was trying to conserve tyres, maybe trying to get the tyres to last for longer, as Florin then now fights back, waits for the outside. He's going to go for the overlap, maybe try a cut underneath the Ferrari here. He does run really wide. He's going to look for a late apex, and no, just really ruined his exit there. And Marley does actually make a bit of a gap now between him and Florin.
Yeah, great positioning of his car from Marley Watts. He knew how to defend that place into turn 2, showed Florin that the only way he was going to try it was around the outside. And actually, I say that Marley's off the track, and after all the hard work he's done, he's back behind the 152 Porsche yet again. He just done a sensational move, and that's a big incident. Sam Knight into the barriers, exit of 3. We're going to have to look back and see how that happened, because that was a hard hit. I suspect some gravel was involved. Past the apex we go, and he just runs a tiny bit too wide.
And oh, that's a huge hit. That's an absolutely huge hit. That's a big shame for the car.
Oh, here's some history on screen. Oh, here's some history on screen.
No?
James White!
James,
into the wall.
Oh, he's gone.
Just like last week, nose to tail with Ed Haskell equals the barriers.
Oh no,
James White and the Mercedes. Oh, that was James White. The 21
that
is
is
in
James
the wall.
White.
So again, James White
and there goes
Ed
the lead,
Haskell,
and he's retired. He's retired.
Just like last week. For those of you that are viewing the stream last week, James White pitted early yet again, and Ed Haskell spins in sympathy, it seems, or maybe in slight celebration.
Oh my God.
That was a rejoin and a half, but we saw it last week at Zolder.
That was a watch your jet moment.
An early pitting James White coming up to pass for position. Ed Haskell still to stop. It's exactly the same dynamic then as we have now. A small mistake from James White, a little bit of pressure on the shoulders of Ed Haskell, and James White unfortunately pitches his car into the wall and out of the race. He cannot catch a break, it seems, but that's one of the risks you run by stopping that early into the race, isn't it?
It really is. It's a big shame. It really is. It's a huge shame for James. I think the strategy could have been quite interesting. I don't know whether we were allowed as broadcasters to bring in James early, maybe have a quick chat with him, just to understand what the strategy was. But it's a big shame, and I'm sure he'll come back a bit stronger at Mazzano, as Masalu now has his moment in sympathy and allows Marley back in an overlap. These two really just don't want to give each other any racing room and just want to keep fighting the whole time, which is, great for us. We've got something to talk about.
It really is. Seems like Marley has an obsession with being in close battles the whole race. Again, Zolder last time out, nose to tail with Josh Lodge in that race, and it was Marley who came out on top to claim that overall podium in the wet. But Florin Masalu, despite the fantastic racing he's done, small mistakes again, and relinquishes that position to Marley Watts. But the loss of James White from this race leaves Ben Gilroy legitimately 13.5 seconds clear of the field, and there's an instant through 5, it seems, between Josh Lodge and Mike Maitland.
Oh no!
That looks like it could have even been a lapping incident with some traffic.
Oh no, Mike! Oh, I mean, to be fair, we have to give obviously it's more Josh Lodge that really the big loser, but Mike obviously losing control of the car. Nothing he could really do except just accept the fate there, I think. There's no way you can really go when that M4 spins. It's huge.
Yeah.
It blocks the entire circuit, almost like a bit reminiscent of your favourite car, Angus, the M6.
They are both incredibly big cars, and when they do spin, they do take up the full width of the racetrack. And unfortunately for Josh Lodge, he still does carry on without losing a place, bear in mind. But he's lost a huge amount of time to Cam Gold in front, and will have some damage because of it, as we see him dive immediately into the pits. And that means that it's going to free up Florin Masalu now to take up that 6th spot. But Marley and Josh Lodge both into the pits. I'm assuming Marley will come out in front due to the damage on Josh Lodge's car, unfortunately. Here's someone who's had a quiet race. Owen Goldsmith, the number 95 BMW, quietly plugged away and done his thing, and it's earned him a podium spot in student right now, looking very, very comfortable indeed with 7.5 seconds back to Cam Gold.
More incidents, 16 and 47, so that is different ends of the circuit, but Curtis and Maitland both having incidents at the same time as Maitland, I can see on the screen, has rejoined hopefully safely, because next cars up are the leaders, as Kirkham has a 5-second penalty. The spreadsheet for me
that's for an unsafe rejoin,
so,
in fact.
Okay,
so Jay Kirkham
so that would
rejoining in front of Cam Gold, it seems. Yeah, that's the one we had seen, I do believe.
That is the one.
So, yeah, 5-second penalty for Kirkham isn't going to cost him any positions on track at the moment, with a 9-second gap back to Kieran Nellums, but definitely won't help his race by any means. But someone who, again, is having a really stellar round, Aidan Chatburn, is still well within eyesight of Anna Foster, or Foster's well within eyesight of Chatburn, I should say, because the gap is only 1.1 seconds there. He's having a fantastic round this time out, by far his strongest showing of the season, and it's really good to see how the dynamic can flow and flex throughout the seasons of these ACC GT3 championships. But there's one constant out in front, and Gilroy in supreme command of this race so far.
Absolutely, he's done incredibly well to continue this form, as we finally see the battle going on between Chatburn and Anna. It's very interesting to note that Gilroy has just been exceptional this season. We get that maybe once here, normally in the Winter Championship, to be fair, as Anna has jumped into the pit, so she's going to call a pit stop early, and Aidan is now going to see if he can obviously overtake by using the overcut strategy. Owen, though, doing exactly what he needs to do, staying out of the way and keeping himself clean and out of trouble. The more trouble you stay out of, the higher you can finish.
Yeah, very much so. It's a dynamic we were talking about before this race even started, that just keeping your nose clean around a track like this can make all of the difference at times. It has punished so many drivers this race, as we've seen through this broadcast on the BUSR YouTube channel in support of Special Effect. But Owen Goldsmith has just plugged away and really done his thing. He doesn't really have any pressure around him, with 6 seconds back and 14 seconds in front. So he's just quietly doing his thing, and is hopefully going to get the result he deserves for it.
Absolutely, he's going to do everything he can to make sure that he obviously finishes as high up as he can, as obviously we have now lap traffic, which means that his day becomes a little bit easier, in the sense of he knows that he doesn't need to fight these cars now. Obviously, you have a supreme amount of experience in the real world in GT cars. How would you approach the lap traffic that maybe wanted to overtake you and has a faster car, obviously faster driver, and has the opportunity to be just faster?
Well, it's an interesting one depending on how you spin it. If you are a faster car lapping some traffic, bear in mind that blue flags in GT3 racing do not mean what they mean in F1. It doesn't mean, oh my goodness, dive out the way, get out the way, do whatever you can to let the faster car through. It doesn't mean that. And it doesn't mean it here either, in the virtual world. What a blue flag is a suggestion that you have someone coming up behind you who's not in your race. Speaking of someone not in their race, that's Ruben Curtis letting Cam Gold go by.
And Josh Lodge is about to let him go probably as well.
And Josh Lodge was indeed for position, but Josh Lodge has a lot of car speed, and this is going to be an interesting dynamic between Lodge and Gold.
It's not Lodge's
qualified
for
very,
position.
very well.
Cam is
Indeed,
second.
it isn't. Indeed, it isn't, but Josh Lodge may have a faster car, like you said earlier. So we'll see what Josh Lodge makes of it. If he thinks he has the faster car speed, do not expect him to make life easy for Cam Gold. If he thinks he can get away, he will do that.
Absolutely, I would be under that impression as well. I would say that sometimes it's easier as well to let the faster cars, even if they are a lap down, just let them go. They're not your fight just yet. Worry about it when they do come around again. Then you need to panic. It's very much a case of using your head, as Sam Knight has had an incident near the pit straight, so I'm sure he's coming into the pits now to repair his car, as well, makes life a lot easier. And no, he's not actually come into the pit lane, he's gone round again. So we have everybody doing their stops
gravel
now midway through.
moment.
I do suspect that was another gravel moment.
So,
it's great to see though, that's the main thing. It's so good to see so many cars again. Obviously the Lexus getting an update next year in the real world, maybe not in ACC, but definitely in the real world it's getting an update. And a lot of the cars as well getting an update for next year, and the introduction as well of the Ford Mustangs, which I'm sure everybody's looking forward to. I'm sure if we could have them in ACC, they'd be in here in a heartbeat.
Yeah, we've got a few new cars coming next year. New Aston Vantage Evo, new BMW M4 Evo, alongside the brand new Mustang you were talking about a second ago, and the
Lexus
Evo. And the Lexus, of course, it is, yeah. And so many more exciting cars and shapes coming out to the GT3 world very, very soon. Of course, we know that there's a lot of work going over in Japan on their GT3 programs, which is always great to see. The Americans are embracing it more. Corvette launching their C8R GT3 car that I suspect will be in LMGT3, the new World Endurance Championship GT class next year.
TF Sport. TF Sport
it is,
announced they were driving that. It's very interesting that the dynamic of GT racing that started back with the GT1s back in the 80s and 90s. All of this has stemmed from the need of having a race car that can be potentially used on the road. Obviously, we have outliers. Some of the cars are built as prototypes and use the rules very loosely. I think we look at Toyota GT1 as a very good example of that. But equally, it's inspired some of probably the best manufacturer decisions ever. Things like Audi continuing a line of R8s for as long as they did, only so they could keep racing. Aston coming back into the fold. Bentley producing cars so that they could go racing. It's incredible to see how well that comes through. And so we've got a stop-go 30 for Jay Kirkham, which is a speeding of the pit lane violation.
Yeah. I was talking to people before the race about being careful on pit entry. Why does no one listen to me?
Because you have not got professional in your name anymore.
That's a shame. Speaking of pit lane, Jay Kirkham does come back in and is very early on the pit limiter, so he's clearly learnt his lesson and will be able to continue without any scratches on the car. Just a little bit of extra time spent down pit road, which will cost him a few places.
Now, interestingly, Anna Foster has pulled a gap on Chatburn. That I was kind of expecting. I believe that Anna was faster, so she's done exactly what she needs to do. She's pitted, and she's now used the clean air to pull away. In fact, actually, that I'm hoping I'm not seeing that right, because at the moment Ben Gilroy is about to come through to lap P3 again. This is not. Yep. This would be the second week in a row that he's lapped on up to the podium.
Well, this is what he does. Last week out at Zolder, he was the last car to take his pit stop and lapped the whole field around two of the smallest tracks at Zolder. And here's a battle on screen. It's the resuming battle between Ruben Curtis and Josh Lodge. So it doesn't look like Josh Lodge has repaired that damage on his car because it's severely hurting his speed. Ruben Curtis, a driver who started the season in quite shaky form, but is really finding his footing now in an old generation Porsche. Bringing it to Josh Lodge is a very good feat. Josh Lodge, a BUSR race winner, has had multiple podiums in his quite illustrious BUSR GT3 campaigns. And Ruben Curtis, a complete rookie here in BUSR, is really giving him a hard time for it.
He really is, and he's doing really well, and obviously it's really impressive to see the mixed ability as well, and racing together, despite maybe not mating each other for the first time. Maybe most of these people probably haven't spoken to each other, but they jump in these cars, and all of a sudden there's a great amount of respect for one another, which is obviously outstanding to see, as we see Owen Goldsmith right up behind Ed Haskell. Obviously it's not pole position because Ed still has to stop. It may be on pole position on circuit, but as Ed goes in, Owen Goldsmith makes the position immediately. So all we're waiting on now is to see where Ben Gilroy shapes up when he comes out the stop. But I imagine he's going to try and overtake a couple more cars before he goes in. He wants the full grid before he comes into the pit stop.
Yeah, those of you who are regular viewers of the BUSR stream know how highly I was singing Ben Gilroy's praises last week when he lapped the entire field. We know that strategy played a part in it, but it's not looking too bad for him at the moment, as he does pass a spun-out car of Kieran Nellums through turn 5 and will continue on his way. Still looking at Owen Goldsmith, a driver who I'm sure was quite relieved to see Ed Haskell dive into the pit lane, because based off past experiences in races past and present, sometimes, for whatever reason, the back end of Ed Haskell's car has to be treated like the back end of a donkey. Without doing anything at all, it will just kick you for no reason. We saw it with James White at Zolder, we saw it with James White here. Both incidents whilst following very, very closely, if not racing, with Ed Haskell. And even though he qualified incredibly well, I'm sure Owen Goldsmith was praying that 72 Mercedes would peel off into the pits as soon as he possibly could.
Absolutely. I mean, evidently the Dazzle camo just a bit too much for people to look at, and they very quickly find out that it's too scary and subsequently find a barrier. Speaking of podiums, though, I'm still yet to actually get my first podium in BUSR, I'm pretty sure.
Well, maybe you should go to the commentary booth and go and start driving again then. Maybe that's a good idea. You're not going to get any more podiums up here, mate.
You know what car I signed up in, so I don't think that was happening this season.
Yeah, you're not going to get any more podiums in the commentary booth, I'm afraid.
I know. Well, you normally crash into me when I'm on a podium, so...
Very true, very true. Maybe intentional, maybe not. I'll take that to my grave. Don't say anything.
All I'm saying is I have the replays.
Oh no.
So for reference, Dirk, who has just asked what's happened to White in the chat, he had an incident behind Ed Haskell after stopping, which meant that even if he'd gone back into the pit stop, he would have been obviously quite a few laps down. It was quite a big shunt into the wall for the Ferrari driver, and obviously has chosen to retire the car for this round. So really, he needs Ben Gilroy now to have a shocking day next week out in Misano, or I would almost hand the trophy to Gilroy that weekend.
Yeah, very, very true. He's been in sublime form, and James White's demise makes it a little bit easier for him. Driver in complete control so far. The only car left to lap for him is Anna Foster, who looks to be around 6 or 7 seconds ahead at the moment. So it would be an unbelievable feat if Ben Gilroy can make it back-to-back races with such an astonishing achievement. Here's another car on screen that we just can't really get enough of. It's such a shame we don't see many more of these out in the BUSR and ACC GT3 worlds altogether, in fact. The lovely Lexus. Fantastic looking car, fantastic sounding car, and back in its prime was one of the fastest cars you could have in this game, but it's an outdated machine, a little bit like the Bentley, a little bit like the M6 BMW that you were talking about earlier, which is my dear beloved, really. That has aged the better of them. Or Nola's V12, yeah, quite so.
I think probably my favourite aged car is the Mercedes, is the non-Evo Mercedes. I find it just exceptionally nice to drive.
Yeah, you're not the only person that thinks that. I mean, some people prefer the old generation Porsche, the 991, being slightly less edgy, slightly less nervous. Easier to drive and easier to extract time out of. In fact, it is, according to some figures, the second fastest car around Laguna Seca right now is the old Porsche. Slower is, sorry, I'll say that again because I butchered it, around 3.5 tenths quicker around this track than the new Porsche, in fact. So that's a stat, isn't it? And we don't usually see that very often, where an old car can sometimes outperform the new one. But that car's really aged like a fine wine, and I suppose you're right with the non-Evo Mercedes as well, because it's still competitive when you get it right and you have it on the right track at the right time.
It really is. And again, that's the great thing about these kind of multi-car races, is that normally when the Evo generations come out, obviously teams always jump straight to them. And obviously it's like the real world. The moment the Evo kit comes out, you don't waste your time, you jump straight onto the Evo kit, unless your name's Richard Neary. But obviously with Evo kits, they're not inherently the fastest thing. They still need fine-tuning, BOP adjusting, and as Porsche found out this year, sometimes they need some traction control as well. So it's really important to get it right, and these drivers here, as they as the battle from last week seems to be resumed, despite it being for lapping, so Cam Gold is going to be lapping Sam Knight, the battle has resumed.
Yeah, it has indeed. These two are seemingly inseparable, as we just cut away, in fact, actually, from those two. But I'm assuming Sam Knight's not particularly concerned about Cam Gold behind. He's not defending, he's just driving his line. There's no real need for him to dive out the way, and in fact, actually, I see that the 211 has actually spun at the corkscrew. Maybe contact, maybe not. We'll have to wait and see what the stewards have to say about that. But either way, Cam Gold has dispatched his fellow Lamborghini, whether it be fair or foul, and can crack on with the rest of this race as Chatburn continues to impress. And now that Gilroy has stopped, we see that the gap is 17.25 seconds between himself and Foster, so nowhere near as big as it was last week. But by no means think that this is a bad showing from the Durham driver. He's in a class of 1. As he has been in the student class, aside from James White. But the consistency really comes in the end. And I was talking about that safety net with James White earlier on. Guess what? This 0 score is going to have to count now. And unless Ben Gilroy has a terrible run of form, that's going to really, really hinder his championship standings.
It really is. And obviously, Gilroy is just solely focused on pushing as hard as he can to get past as many cars as he can in as quick a time as he can. I believe actually, where is he now? 30. Yeah, he's lapped the entire field. So
no, they're just in different sectors.
Sorry, yeah,
that's going to
I was about to panic, say already. There we go, 16 seconds. But we have to tip our hat to him where it's due. He has done
100%
everything he can to put the hammer down and just keep pushing and pushing and pushing.
Well, we're seeing him.
Sorry.
We see him in back of shot now, and this was a driver who, through the week's been putting in the laps and really doing his practice, as Mike Maitland's probably the opposite end of that spectrum. A driver who's lacking a little bit of confidence, new back to ACC, flash the lights as if for the cameras from Ben Gilroy. Not particularly sure why he feels like he needs to get on with this overtake. It's not like he's in any pressure from behind. But
I think he just wants to lap everybody again. I think he's had a bit too much fun.
Quite perhaps. If what Ben Gilroy has been saying is to be believed, his method of practice is quite unusual in the world of ACC, because
let's go for it.
Every week, as a little personal story here, I create a little video of me driving around the track that we're racing on that week in a certain car. This week it was Laguna, of course, and I've been driving the Porsche 992 a little bit recently, so I thought, hell, I'll drive that one and see what's what. I joined the server, and James White was in the server, AFK, and Ben Gilroy was in the server, also AFK, but also sitting completely stationary in the braking zone on the racing line for the final corner. Now, what you're thinking is, that's a very unusual method of practice, and I thought so too. And having asked him to move, he continued to drive around the circuit before stopping again on the entry to this corner here, turn 5, on the racing line again. And having asked him why, he said he was learning brake references, which, if that is his method for learning brake markers, that is an extremely unorthodox approach.
It's very unique. I mean, all I'm going to say is that if you're doing your videos, I think there needs to be a week where you do something in a very silly car. I'm just going to suggest a supercar round one of the circuits, which I can address.
Well, that's a different game.
But
I'm misunderstanding the point. It's about creating references for people to use.
Yeah, still counts.
Well, I don't think the references are very ususeful if you're in a supercart where you hardly ever need to brake and you weigh around 180 kilograms.
Okay. Mazda MX-5, my bad.
Oh, right, yeah, because the braking zones are the same in that as well. Either way.
Okay, I'll stop messing now. But yeah, obviously, Ben Gilroy doing a very... it's an unorthodox method, I think maybe more just trying to excuse himself for sitting on the apex, but the key thing being that whatever he seems to be doing works. And not only does it work well, as evidenced, but it's continuously worked if this is something he does. The question is he going to continue to stay elusive until the end of the season where we can't get him in for a broadcast? That's the biggest biggest question.
Yeah, I'm tempted to place some money on it if you think he'll ever be around for an intervter post-race. Because
don't say that too loudly.
Okay.
I was going to say Stick will be up here.
I was about to whisper in my mic. I'm not going to do that anymore. After what happened last week where we were having a couple of technical issues and I asked to be able to see the race, but I happened to whisper it and give a little ASMR show to everyone watching the stream. Sorry about that. But we've asked for Ben Gilroy's interview 3 times and been denied 3 times.
3 times.
As we see Mike Maitland actually pick up a little penalty. That's for dangerous driving. And the 152, of course, being Florin Mazalus. We haven't seen where that's come from. Speaking of dangerous driving, oh my goodness me. Some superb avoiding action as Ruben Curtis is off through the rainy curve. And Maitland completely has to dive out the way to avoid him.
Very clever. Very clever move from Mike there. Get as wide as you can, get away from the incident, and okay, yes, quick trip through the gravel, but very clever to get himself out of the way and out of harm's way.
Yeah, I think the only phrasing piece of that is that Mike chose life And
Agreed.
fair play to him. He doesn't really want to get in too much chaos, having picked up a 15-second time penalty for some dangerous driving. A little bit more dangerous driving, I'm sure, would not help his cause very much. So great avoidance there from Maitland, a returning driver this year, having put his driving on the back seat a little bit as he's focused on his final exams and papers in his university degree. One driver who actually is a teacher, so isn't really taking notes as such to put through, but taking notes to teach other people. Go on screen right now, Cav Bud. Very good teacher what he is, but maybe needs to refine his racing lines a little bit, as that's the moment going up through 6.
Yeah, absolutely.
But does keep it up together.
Of that. We can make a compilation of everybody going off at 6. I'm pretty sure there's nobody here that hasn't been off at 6s.
Oh,
that is Chatburn.
That's not, but it's not 6 AC, that's turn 4. But he's having such a good race, and that's probably the only thing so far that I can say against his race so far. He hasn't lost any positions. He hasn't really lost much time. It just kind of backs him away a little bit more from Anna Foster. And with Owen Goldsmith another 15 seconds behind, I don't think he's really under that much pressure. So small things like that will not punish him too much come the end of this race.
Yeah, it's really important that he tries to manage the best he can. Obviously, it's difficult. There is another car off. That was 213, was it? Or 211? 211. But obviously, in the wall at turn 3. So everybody seems to be...
Before.
Yeah, we've seen that before, haven't we? It seems to be as the sun's coming up, everybody just seems to be getting a little bit more confused as to where the light's coming from. And obviously, mistakes are starting to creep in. That, and also they've been racing for about 50 minutes now. Oh, well, 55 minutes, there we go. So quite a while.
Yeah, right, you are. These do take a toll on you when you're driving for such a long period of time straight. Usually, in the world of GT World Challenge esports, we see drivers changing, if not every stint, every other stint. But when you're racing on your own around a track as difficult as this for this period of time, it can really start to bite you if you have small
Chatburn's had another
lapses
issue
in
and lost a
concentration.
position.
Yeah, we see Chatburn. I also saw Ed Haskell was off in the gravel. We want to see how this happened now.
So Chatburn into turn 2, this is. And I think it's going to be the same incident again, isn't it? Turn 3. He's going to just drop it. Gravel touch.
It's on entry
there
this time.
And oversteer. And I'm assuming through comes Owen.
Yeah, there goes Goldsmith.
Through comes Nellums. And yeah, like that, Owen, without doing very much, is now on the overall podium and P2 in class. So
yeah, he's just crept his way up. We haven't seen him make any overtakes on track aside from the first lap. But staying out of trouble and keeping your nose clean really is the secret to a race like this. And there aren't really many better examples than Cam Gold on screen right now and Owen Goldsmith. Gold from the back of the grid. And actually staying out of trouble, he goes straight off the road in the final corner. Through the gravel he goes. Did he hear me or something? Is this commentator's curse exaggerated? Because that wasn't at all in his plan. And trying to avoid Chatburn into the final corner now loses well over 2 seconds from that, in fact, from the recovering Chatburn, who's very much on the back foot now after looking so strong earlier on.
It really is. And again, it's a shame for him. I think time is just trying to set in. And I mean, as you know, when you did the 6-hour solo, it can get very tiring after about an hour. Even with 1 hour in, you just become very tired. Your body starts to feel a bit achy because you're sat in this fixed position for so long where there's no movement in your body other than your legs occasionally moving back and forth on the pedals and your arms moving left and right. It really takes a toll on your mind and your body, especially if, well, like myself, you get very distracted and very bored if you're not doing something like racing somebody close.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That 6-hour race, of course, the BUSR 6 hours of Paul Ricard in support of Man Health. Fantastically raised with a lot of money raised for charity. I decided to solo the whole race, the 6 hours in a Lamborghini. A car not driven very much, but oh my goodness me, the last few hours of the race, not only your body, but your mind, your eyes all suffered. And coming into the race, I was completely drained. Despite having not really had too much to worry about from my side of things, apart from maybe some dodgy internet at the time. But it really can take it out of you, and it's just testament to how much these guys are going through around a race such as this.
Absolutely. Well, as we are ticking down the seconds, the daylight rising in the Western American sky, Laguna Seca, based on that beautiful west coast of the USA. Beautiful part of the country from what I've been told. I'd love to go and visit. I think actually one of the circuits I've always wanted to go visit, as we see Cam Gold currently chasing down Aiden Chatburn again. This time hopefully not going to throw the car off into the gravel like he did last time round, as he goes very wide here, almost does exactly what I said. So obviously he must be listening and trying to replicate what he did earlier. But if you're enjoying this and you're enjoying our very mixed chatter, occasionally relevant, occasionally informative chatter, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Obviously hit like as well, so we know we're doing a good job, as Cam Gold is continuously racing and chasing down Aiden Chatburn. Now this is only for an overall position. This isn't actually for a class position. Cam Gold currently sat P2 in the alumni class, with Marley Watts P3, Josh Lodge P4, Cav Bud P5 and Sam Knight P6, as we've lost I believe 4 drivers from the race so far. Pranav Calavara, Jonan Turner, James White, and I need to try and figure out the 4th one, but we had 18 entries at the start and we're now down to 14 with 17 minutes to go. We have Ben Gilroy in the lead, Anna Foster second, 25 seconds back. Owen Goldsmith promoted up to 3rd now, as we see Ben Gilroy coming down towards the line now to complete lap 41 of his race. He has Josh Lodge just behind him, P7. So he is currently lapping his way around as many cars as he can before the end of the race. Florin Maslou 2 laps down. So everybody else, I believe, at least 1 lap down on our race leader currently. Don't forget, we also have other races coming up this week as we take a trip. I don't know where we are in iRacing. I'm sure I can be told very soon. And
I can find out.
And also F1, but we have multiple series going on, all of which should be live streamed right through this channel. So if it's something that you're interested in watching and you are wanting to keep up to date, make sure you keep an eye on the channel, and we are live at least 3 times a week.
Yeah, we are indeed. Let us go through then this schedule. As we see, that's Josh Lodge having a small excursion on the exit of 5. We've just seen him on screen behind our leader Ben Gilroy, and it's another gravel moment. That's an almost carbon copy of Cav Bud, but look at the recovery.
10.
Josh Lodge, car control extraordinaire. That is a 10. The old brake flick spin in reverse was fantastic that time round. But whilst we have a chance, let's go through our schedule for the rest of the week. So this Thursday on the iRacing Winter Championship, we head to Rudskogen in the Toyota GR86s. A new car, a newer track, and we're very much looking forward to seeing how that goes. The F1 on Saturday will return at Barcelona, one of my favourite tracks in GT3 machinery. Obviously, F1's a very different ball game, but hell, I don't drive F1 too much, but always interesting to see how that'll pan out. And then the rally is at New Zealand, the land down under. Fantastic to be heading back down to that beautiful, beautiful country.
Absolutely. Cam Gold is looking around the outside. It's going to be a brave move if he makes that. In fact, he's still side by side with Aiden Chatburn up towards Corkscrew now. Going to try and get on the brakes later. He has got the overlap, but Aiden Chatburn absolutely throws a move down there, and he goes across the gravel. He's surely going to have to concede the position there, and does. So Aiden Chatburn, again, just making small mistakes now, as we've only got 15 minutes of the race to go. So far, we've completed the whole hour of this race. I'm pretty sure that by now, mentally and physically, the drivers are probably pretty exhausted.
Yeah, I think you're quite right there. Showing a little bit of a strain under pressure was Chatburn, and since he's lost touch of Anna Foster, has really struggled to get his rhythm back, as we see the sun now rising on the California desert. Obviously a beautiful part of the world, and a fantastic, fantastic picturesque racetrack with so much history as well. And we're just adding to that little bit of history with some BUSR racing on the Assetto Corps Competizione platform on PC. But Cam Gold, having started 18th on the grid, not set a qualifying time. He was only allowed dispensation to race this tonight in general, as Ruben Curtis is a nice little flick spin to get going again. But
let's see what we rate this one. On the curb, over the gravel, and around he goes.
So the loop itself wasn't the most elegant, but the flick spin back round was very well executed. I think I'll give that one a, yeah, I was going to say 6. So just in sync, aren't we? Which is which is very, very nice. But Cam Gold from the back of the grid, He's up to 4th now, and he's only 8 seconds behind Goldsmith. The gap is actually coming down quite significantly between these two.
It really
so
is.
Could there be a challenge on for the final space on the overall podium? And I don't think we would have predicted these two going to war for that spot. Owen Goldsmith, talking to him before tonight begun, was not gelling with this track at all. And Cam Gold didn't even really do much practice, if any, and started right down at the back of the grid, has charged his way through and kept his nose clean throughout. And they are reaping the rewards of their labor right now.
Well, rather interestingly, these two are actually fighting for what's currently 7th position in the overall championship. In fact, Aiden Larson is not here today, is he? So they'd be jumping themselves up above Aiden either way. But currently it's Cam Gold on 26 points and Goldsmith on 37, so 11 points, but obviously there's still a lot more to come into play, drop rounds including as well. And Ben Gilroy currently leading the overall standings, but tied with Anna Foster, so it's going to obviously extend here in this round of the BUSR Winter Series. Currently, it's Ben Gilroy, Anna Foster, James White, and Marley Watts are top 4 in the overall standings. Again, it's good to see the alumni and the students all racing each other really closely.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it. You look through that leaderboard right now, we have student, alumni, student, alumni, student, alumni, alumni, and student are your top 8. So 4 and 4, in fact, and actually it's 5 and 5 for the top 10, actually. So fantastic split between the classes. Here's one of the students, one of the newcomers to the BUSR, Kieran Nellums, continuing to advance actually on Ed Haskell, who qualified 5th on the grid, just hasn't been able to get going this race really. And I look that he's carrying a bit of front end damage on that car as Nellums lets go by. So Kieran Nellums making good progress through the field, will be honing in on that, let's say, distinctive purple, green and yellow Mercedes in front.
It really is distinctive, and it's, I mean, we've had a lot of discussion in the BUSR about the Rev Sport liveries, but one thing we can all agree on is how striking they look and how incredible those cars look each time they come out into the circuit. Again, a very distinct pattern that the Rev Sport community used, the Dazzle camo with various colours as Nellums. That looks like Nellums off in the background. Hopefully he's not tagged anybody. No, looks like he's all right so far, but could have actually taken out Chatburn there as he sits in the gravel and waits for everybody to go through. He's going to carry on now nice and safely. Again, as the cars drop out from the race, it's a bit easier for them to manage the rejoins, a little bit safer to try and get out onto the circuit and continue the race. Ed Haskell has a lot of damage on the front of that car still. Clearly he didn't repair it under the pit stops, so unless he's had another incident that we've not been aware of.
Yes, well, that was my suspicion, frankly. Seeing him down in 10th place didn't quite sit right with me, having qualified so high up the field. But I was just singing Kieran Nellums' praises, and then all of a sudden he has a little moment exiting 5 up the hill, and this is Florian Mazalou having a moment, and Cavbud comes up and will get by that 152 Porsche. So the Lexus advances a place on one of the newest cars in this game. So it's old versus new quite. And actually, speaking of Florian Mazalou, he now finds himself in the barriers exiting 5. So straight after that,
hard. Yeah,
2 wheels on the gravel, a big Porsche twitch, and bonk on the wall. She wasn't too hard, so shouldn't be a huge amount of damage, but it's lost him an awful lot of time. And I'd be surprised if that was just the one place he lost. It was, in fact, but Ed Haskell's a lot closer to him than he would have liked now.
Absolutely. It's unfortunate for him, but again, every day is a learning day, and I'm sure he'll take away all the negatives as a learning curve for the next round. Now, interestingly, Sam Knight still hasn't pitted.
He's off again!
Oh no, Florin! Ooh, that's incredibly close.
That was a heart-in-mouth moment, that was. The biggest of twitches going down rainy curve.
Make sure it's a safe rejoin there. Very good. Very well done.
Dangerous part of the track this is, and this is for position, what you see here. Haskell on Mazalou. Haskell to the inside, and will get past the 152. I feel like the rear tyres on that Porsche are really giving away now. Having driven it recently, it can be so hard on its rear tyres, especially. You do all your driving from the rear axle, so those tyres come under a huge amount of load. And Aiden Chatburn behind won't be too interested in sitting behind them for much longer, because Marley Watts isn't a million miles away either. So Haskell and Mazalou Here's another battle that's going to commence, I suspect, very, very soon. But the rear tyres on this Porsche are dead. They're just shot, aren't they?
They are. They really are. The car just doesn't seem to be very stable. It looked like a lot of front end damage as well, which means there's no front end grip. And obviously no weight over the front of the car. Besides, I think the fuel tank's in the front of the car, is it not?
Yeah, you're very right.
So the only bit of weight you have diminishes over time. Now, if you've got no aerodynamics pushing the car down at the front, all of a sudden, this becomes perhaps the most dangerous car to drive, because all of a sudden there's no weight at the front, all the weight at the rear, and the front could just give away at any moment.
Well, I was driving the Audi at the start of the season, and that felt pretty dangerous to me. I then went and jumped in the Porsche and decided, oh wow, this is a different ball game. And having run some laps in the Audi before tonight, I realized that the Audi now felt really boring to me. So God help me when I go back to something front-engined, or maybe the Ferrari. And actually, in the background, that's Gilroy having a moment on the exit of the corkscrew. He just caught that in the back of shot, 2 wheels on the gravel, nearly looped it into the wall. Dare I say, even if he had, he wouldn't have lost a place. And that may lose a place. Josh Lodge, heavy impact into the wall, exiting 6, not the race straight. It's another one to add to the collection.
It's another. Oh, it's a big one. That's a very big one. And I'm only giving that a 2. Not a very impressive one.
No, you haven't saved the car nearly anywhere near well enough there, Josh, I'm afraid. But I mean, he is still going and he hasn't lost any places, so he'll be relieved. Speaking of moments in the gravel, good car control from Maitland, just about keeps him out of trouble. But Cam Gold honing in behind him to put another lap on the 47 BMW. He does sneak on by and can continue his charge up towards Josh Lodge in front. The damaged, sorry, no, that's Cav Budd. Cam Gold is in 4th place and is still closing in on Goldsmith. And looking at the map, that's a 211 as Sam Knight off again.
The question is Sam actually going to
like
stop
flies,
at any point?
Aren't they? They're falling like flies, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. Sam turned 9, rainy curve there, and drops it under.
Ooh, I wouldn't want to be a car going through rainy curve near behind him. Oh my goodness me!
He's still not stopped.
Stuff.
How has he got any fuel left?
That's a very good point. Wow. That's unbelievable. I've just noticed that. That's quite remarkable there.
Unless he has stopped and he's not changed his tyres.
Well, I don't think a tyre change is actually in the rule book. So obviously 25-second minimum pit hold with the option of taking tyres on top, adding 5 seconds to your stop. I could imagine that everyone here took tyres. But Sam Knight looks like that he hasn't even refueled the car at any point. Ed Haskell off the road, and that will lose him that place to... It won't lose him that place to Maslow, in fact, but it will lose him that place on the road, at least, to Aidan Chatburn, who's about to be lapped for the first time, I believe.
Yeah, this will be now
by Ben Gilroy.
First time for 5th place. So he could probably, with 5 minutes left, I think he could probably get Cam as well.
Well, it's all dependent on his pace and keeping it within the white lines. We see he's running it super safe out of 5 and up towards 6. The dirty air from the McLaren in front will be hampering his cornering ability very, very nearly on the gravel. It was a close moment to another one to add to the collection from this race. With 5 minutes left on the clock here of the 4th round of the BUSR ACC Winter Championship in support of Special Effect, I have a question to ask you, Adam, and that is, who do we think deserves interviews this time out?
Well, I mean, obviously, we'll say Gilroy, whether he appears or not, there's another thing.
It is.
Anna Foster, I think we take our top 3 of the day, I think, if we can. Anna, Ben, and Owen.
I definitely want to speak to Goldsmith. That's one of them. I believe we spoke to Anna Foster last week, so I think maybe we give her voice a rest. It'll be good to hear from Gilroy if he would pop down. So I know that Derg is a frequent viewer of the BUSR channel.
Let's go top 3. Let's go top 3. Top 3 students then. Let's go Gilroy, Chatburn, and Goldsmith.
Yeah, I think that's a very good shout. So those are our 3 we'll hopefully be talking to after the race. Whether we get any words from Gilroy or not, we'll have to wait and see. But I just have to say this again. I'm genuinely really happy for Owen Goldsmith, who's had a bit of heartache in ACC. Didn't gel with the car at Zolder, didn't gel with the car here in practice, but it's all come together when he needed it to. So a driver who's challenged for the championship in the past in the F1 platform, stepping over to a very, very complicated and, from my own personal experience in the real world, a very realistic game platform. He's thrown himself into the deep end here in BUSR, and he's really holding his own, and I am so, so happy for him to get an overall podium if he can keep it on the track for the next 3.5 minutes.
It's not just that, but we can see the Lamborghini in the background now. It is closing every lap. We'll see what the gap is this time through, as Florin has decided the Porsche is going to go rallying again as he comes through the corkscrew. It's going to be into a rainy curve. He's going to run a bit wide, I imagine. Oh no, he just gets, runs it too tight, and the front end doesn't grip. It's the scariest thing in the world when that front end doesn't grip, because all of a sudden the rear end just comes around on you like a ton of bricks, and you've got to try and manage what is essentially a very unstable car.
Yeah, right you are. Here's someone who's had a quiet second half of the race, having been locked in combat for the first half with Florin Mazalou, who's faded away in these last few laps, unfortunately. Marley Watts dispatching lapped traffic, leading a lot of them to Ed Haskell there, and rightly so, with Haskell being all sorts of out of shape off the road. He's had a pretty quiet run of things in the second half, but Chatburn is only 2.5 seconds up the road. And if Watts' pace is anything to go by, we know he can extract time out of a car. He can see that McLaren up in front. He will be giving it absolutely everything in these later stages to try and get that one final place.
He really will. It's so important, especially for morale, if you've had a tough first half of your race, to get every position you can in the second half. Again, every position you gain is a position, obviously, in the overall standings for you to gain some points from, as Mike Maitland is going to get lapped yet again by Marley Watts here. Marley gonna play it nice and safe, I think, maybe. Yep, throw it down the inside, let Mike stay to the outside and carry on his merry way towards Aiden Chatburn. Chatburn is gonna have to really, really push now if he wants to keep Marley behind, because Marley will now extract as much time as possible from that car. But that is, closed very slightly, so maybe he has got enough time. There's only about 2 laps left on the race.
Well, it's important you say that. 2 laps left on the race, but Marley Watts dealing with traffic that lap and was able to still find time on Chatburn in the final sector despite dispatching of Maitland. I do think we'll have one more lap after this run as our race leader Ben Gilroy currently enters turn 5. But this is where you have to watch right now. Marley Watts has a lot of pace in that car. He's closed again through sector 1. And another 1/10 of a second. He's just chipping away. The pressure will be mounting on Chatburn. He's made a few mistakes this race. We know that car has plenty of speed, but is faded in the later stages. And all that he needs to do now is just keep his eyes forward and try not to look in your mirrors too much. It's so tempting to do, to see where's the guy behind me. What's he going to try and do?
That's a huge margin, 4/10 in the second sector. Now,
wow, that is
as well, it's going to be
down.
really interesting because Curtis is up ahead, which means that all of a sudden Chatburn has now got to try and deal with the lap traffic. And as we've seen in many endurance races, lap traffic really does play a devil's advocate in racing.
Oh, well, absolutely. Well, the GT3 regs being what they are, why do they have to leap out the way? Obviously, most of our drivers here are very kind and courteous and very respectful to the cars lapping them, but it's not to say that's the only way you can deal with that. Ruben Curtis is running his own race, and if he feels like he will be better off keeping Chatburn behind and not letting him through, just driving his line as normal, then he is actually entitled to do so. The gap between Watts and Chatburn stretched out in the final sector, so a small mistake from Watts. Chatburn with a bit more breathing room, so it doesn't look like, barring anything abnormal, there's going to be any change there. So Chatburn holding on to that student podium. He doesn't look under any threat for that, but his overall top 5 is up for grabs. But out the front of the field, Anna Foster's had a very quiet run of things, if anything, of her showings to go by. Hasn't really been in too much action since turn 2, if I'm honest with you, but our race leader, as he enters the corkscrew now for the final time, has yet again proven why he is sailing away with this overall and student championship. He's in an absolute class of one. It's Ben Gilroy.
Absolutely, he really is. And obviously as he comes up towards the final few corners now through 10 and then heading down towards 11, the most important thing is that with another couple laps, he would have overtaken Owen and also Cam.
Yeah,
which
he really would have.
They will still have another lap. So
yeah, but out of the final corner we come. Let's celebrate the leader while we can. It's Ben Gilroy on top once again. 2 from 2 in the BUSR GT3 Winter Championship on a Seca Course Competizione. He cruises to a comfortable victory by nearly half a lap over Anna Foster. And we will just keep an eye with the corner of our eyes on that battle for third overall, as it is closing up between Goldsmith and Cam Gold. It's the battle of the Golds.
Wow.
But here is our alumni winner, Anna Foster, into the final couple of corners behind Josh Lodge, but I doubt she'll try and move this late on into the race with no real reward.
I don't think she will. I think she's had too many times where she's caught lap traffic on the final lap and being caught out by it, eventually obviously losing positions because of it. So really well done for Anna. She's going to come across the line for a really respectable second place, as Chatburn and Marley Watts ended up 1.2 seconds away from each other. That is the wrong Lamborghini behind Owen, but it is a Lamborghini. Sam Knight hasn't stopped. I would just like to point out, he has not stopped.
Yeah, I'm very impressed about that. But we look at Cam Gold now. He's tried and tried and tried to bring that gap down to Owen Goldsmith. But the BMW will return to the podium in the BUSR, and look at what it means to him. Owen Goldsmith, take a bow, his first GT3 podium in BUSR. I'm so honestly happy for him. He's put so much time and effort into a series such as this, and running double duty. He really, really deserves that one. But
he really does.
Yeah, that was indeed a race, and it was indeed another Gilroy win in student and Foster win in alumni. Is there anything that can stop these two?
A puncture?
Yeah, quite.
Somebody over their shoulder grabbing the wheel, maybe? I don't know.
Someone throwing banana peels on the track?
Maybe. I mean, if you pay me enough, I'll start throwing. But no, the main thing here is they're both incredible drivers, incredible talents. Both have, again, we don't know much about Gilroy, but we know that Anna has raced at the top, one of the top levels, especially in female competition. She's got podiums in MFR. She's almost taken over she's almost taken outright wins in MFR as well. So she has got the pace there, and we know that time in and time out. Ben Gilroy, again, a bit of a outlier coming into this season. First round was really poor for him. He had a terrible time, I think, at Silverstone, but has bounced back really well. And because of that, it's going to give him a great opportunity now to progress and continuously progress. In fact, now building this massive gap that he has between him and, obviously, now we currently be Owen Goldsmith in P2, which is obviously wonderful to see for him. And again, Ed Haskell obviously will probably overtake James White for P3 in the standings as well. So it's incredible to see.
Yes, it really is, and that's the way the shape of things changes here in BUSR. It is ever liquid and with positional changes all the time. But I kind of echo what you say in regards to Gilroy and Foster. They're definitely the classes of their respective classes so far this season, and I'm very interested to hear what Gilroy has to say if he joins. If he joins, we hope he joins. And indeed what Goldsmith said, who just finding time out of his pocket as things go on and just continuing to improve. So let us have a little recap of that race. So off the start, it was James White on pole, let's not forget. So actually the pole man retired from the race, and he pulled a bit of a gap in the first two laps before deciding to stop really early. Do you have any idea what that strategy call was about?
I couldn't tell you. I wouldn't be stopping that early. And maybe I would stop within the hour to the flag, on the basis that I know that my kind of driving style just builds and builds on time. So I would probably stop early. But James stopped incredibly early. I think that maybe he was hoping that it would work the other way around, and Gilroy would find himself in a lot more trouble than he ended up finding himself in, which was the square root of zero. Incredible. Again, I think we have to just tip our hats to everybody that's finished the race. First of all, it's not exactly easy to... Oh my God, I see it.
Ben Gilroy,
we have a Gilroy. But yeah, we have to tip our hats to everybody that finished, and especially a big well done to Gilroy and Anna Foster, who once again just did their own thing and got to the end. Yeah,
quite right you are. Let us drag in the third place in student tonight. Aidan Chatburn, welcome to the commentary box. You had a really strong start to the race before, seeming like you lost your rhythm a little bit in the second half. How was that? How was the Laguna Seca track from your point of view? Aidan, are you there? Can you hear us?
Aidan?
Doesn't look like Aidan is at his mic right now, so we shall put him back in the waiting room and drag in our second place student class finisher, Owen Goldsmith. Take a bow, my friend. That was a fantastic, fantastic drive around one of the most difficult tracks on the Seca course competency-only platform. How was that all from your point of view, and how are you feeling?
I did not expect that whatsoever. No, yeah, in all honesty, I struggled in qualifying, and then, I see Ed and Chatburn all the way up near the top, and, I mean, they're really my closest rivals in terms of the student championship as well as James and Gilroy, but they'll go off and have their own battle because bloody hell, they're fast. I have no idea what happened lap 1. I'm just thankful my starting position was on the inside going into turn 1, turn 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if people made contact there, but yeah, just kept it clean through that, and then I think somebody spun out in turn 3, and then the next thing I know is I've gone from where I've originally qualified, which I think was 9th, all the way up to P5. I think someone else lost it, which gave me P4, and honestly, I did not expect Aiden to lose it. Like, I think it was at least a good 25 minutes from the end. I hear yellows, and I'm thinking, oh, it's probably just, a back marker who's spun or something. But no, I see Chatburn's McLaren on the outside of turn 3. I was like, oh my god, wait, hang on, I'm in P3. Run away.
Good job.
Oh. No, I'm exhausted after that one.
Oh, rightfully so. You are. It was the best drive I've seen you make in GT3 machinery, and hopefully the start of some really good things for yourself. Next week we head to the wonderful land of Italy and Misano. Have you spent any time with that track? Do you fancy your chances there too?
I have never driven it, so
that's a good start.
Yeah, no, it should be fun. Like, I mean, yeah, just like learning stuff even when I've done F1 as well as ACC. Just hopefully I can get into the rhythm quickly and get up to speed and hopefully challenge again for another podium, whether that be student or overall.
Yeah, fingers crossed that. Adam, you have anything to add?
No, just really well done, mate. I'm absolutely over the moon for you. And hey, you found the wheel and suddenly you drive fast.
I know, right? I stole it from the 6 Hour, put it onto my rig, job done.
Oh, the things sim racing hardware does for you. Well, Owen Goldsmith, P3 overall, P2 in student tonight. You had a fantastic, fantastic race. We look forward to seeing you next week. Take care of yourself. We'll see you then.
Cheers, Angus. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Great to see how genuinely happy he was with that result.
For him.
Yeah,
I'm so happy for him.
Should we try Chatburn again, or
let's try it again? Yeah, let's give him one more try.
Yet again, we will try and reach our third place student tonight. It is Aiden Chatburn. Aiden, can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
There we go.
Great to have you along. Really, really strong start from you in that one, taking P3 for a little while before James White pitted and then holding off Anna Foster for the rest of your first stint. What was it like being right at the sharp end of the field after having not shown up at Zolder?
I was pretty good overall. At least the first half was very good. Overall, yeah, I don't know how to talk about it. All I can think of is the second half.
I mean, you still held on to the student podium, which is obviously, at the end of the day, you need points. Points means prizes. So surely you've got to be a little bit happy at least that you've continued, obviously, onto the podium and can maybe build on that for the next week.
Yeah, I'm happy with that, yeah, but it's just that I expected myself to get more, and just the second half, the second stint just went really bad.
Yeah, it was a shame to see, mate, really it was, after such a strong start. So next week is the wonderful land of Italy and Misano. Is it a track you spent much time on, and how do you fancy your chances around there in the McLaren?
Overall, I think it's one of my stronger tracks, so I should do a little bit better than this, because I'm pretty sure Laguna is one of my worst, so it should be better.
Don't worry, it's most people's worst track. So you've got that one out of the way, and you've still bagged good points from it. So our third place student tonight, after a really strong drive, is Aiden Chatburn. Aiden, have a fantastic evening. We'll see you next week.
See you later.
Thank you very much.
Well, there we go. Good to hear from Aiden again. And now it is the moment we've been waiting for the whole season. Ben Gilroy, welcome to the commentary box.
Hello, thank you.
Oh, it's so good to finally have you along after Mr. Elusive has never shown up for an interview. So Laguna Seca this week, I mean, we may as well talk around the whole season, to be honest with you. You've been in fantastic form in Student. You're walking away with the Student Championship. How have you found your BUSR experience so far?
It's been difficult managing practice with coursework, but, you know, just get a session in whenever you can. And then just turn up to the race. Try not to make any mistakes.
Yeah, rightly so. Definitely seemed like you were full of confidence going into this one. Just missed out on pole, of course, but James White, with that unusual strategy call, really freed you up to stretch your legs a bit and claiming maximum points again. Do you think James is going to be your close challenger for the rest of the championship, or do you think there's someone else further behind, talking Owen Goldsmith or Chatburn, the rest of the student podium tonight, who can try and bring it to you?
I think James, he definitely has the pace. It's just unfortunate that I think he spun or something early on.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
But I feel like we could have had such a good race. And hopefully in the future, we can get some good battles. Yeah,
we were definitely looking forward to it here, that's for sure. So with the halfway point of the season gone, next week we head to the fantastic track of Misano. Have you spent much time there? Do you know your way around it? Are you fancying your chances in the McLaren?
I've never driven it before, so we'll see. But I mean, it's like Valencia and Zolder. I hadn't driven them before, so just put in a practice. Hopefully, come out with a win.
Are you going to be stopping on any more Apexes then?
Oi, hey, let's not bring the practice over into this. Either way, mate, you've absolutely dominated tonight, as per last week as well. You've been in absolutely fantastic form for someone who's hardly ever driven the circuit, so really look forward to seeing what you can go on and do. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you for finally stopping in the commentary box.
Cheers, thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you soon, mate. All the best.
See ya.
Can you believe he hadn't practiced Zolder and Valencia before the race week?
No, I really
That's
can't.
Unreal.
I mean, obviously, it kind of showed when he didn't end up chasing you down, but I think when you're next out racing, you're gonna have to now really watch out for Ben there. I think potentially.
I suspect you might be right.
Any esports teams maybe watching around, see how the rest of the season goes. He may be a free agent at the end of the year, and maybe worth talking.
We have esports managers in the server. Pranav Kalavala.
That was
me. You, Alexa Gates, the ACC race organizer and head steward. We all work for our individual esports teams, so that's pricked my ears up a little bit. So I'm picking up on that one, and I'll be watching it closely. But that's an unbelievable effort, it must be said.
Absolutely incredible effort. Again, to be fair, incredible effort from everybody. You know, we can talk about these people that turn up and just have this natural ability to go fast. But we've also got to mention all the people that turn up, still try their hardest. People like Pran who maybe haven't got that natural talent there, have to really work for what they've got. No, but not in that sense. You know what I mean?
That came out harsh.
Not in that way.
Pran, we love you.
We do love you, Pran. We absolutely love you. But again, and myself, I haven't got that natural talent. For me to go fast, I've got to spend hours practicing. So for people that can turn up and race, great for them. But also hats off to everybody that has to practice, get to that level. And they'll put a lot of time into it.
Yeah, and of course everyone behind the scenes turning all the cogs. Jason, our producer tonight, Alexa and Remco, our stewards, and all of the people at social media and everything like that. We have been BUSR. We look forward to seeing you on Thursday for iRacing and Saturday again for F1. In the meantime, it's been Adam, Ben, and Angus Fender in the commentary box. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Enjoy the rest of your night, and goodbye.
Good night.